XDefiant has launched into a closed beta this week. There has been a lot of hype surrounding this game, so much so to the point where some are even labeling it as the COD killer, if you will, which is a hell of a title to give any game out there. Is such a title an accurate assessment of the game, or are we all looking at this thing with rose-tinted glasses? Well, g'day there once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today we are taking a long, hard, and brutally honest look at XDefiant. So, there's no denying that there is a lot of hype circulating this game right now, and truth be told, I think a lot of that comes from just the mediocre reception of a lot of other games out there that sort of sit within the arcade shooter space. I know that Modern Warfare 2's Season 3 wasn't particularly well received, so the timing of XDefiant's closed beta is kind of poetic, funnily enough. There's clearly a high demand for some good, fun, classic arcade shooter experiences out there that take people back to the good old days of yesteryear. So, does XDefiant get us there? Straight out of the gate, there's certainly some things to like about the game, and as always, I'm going to start out with the good stuff here. For one, I really enjoyed the gunplay that is on offer in this game. I thought that generally speaking, the gunplay was approachable enough to get the hang of, but as soon as you started to get a better understanding of recoil characteristics and cone of fire blooming, it gave you the ability to do some pretty schmick stuff as a skilled player. One of the more welcome changes that we see here by comparison to other arcade shooters that are out there is that the visual recoil in this game has been kept to a minimum, and the challenge of managing your weapon is mainly placed on a player's ability to handle mechanical recoil and cone of fire, which I love. Games like Modern Warfare that add ridiculous amounts of visual recoil to the game just muddles up the gameplay experience and takes the control out of the player's hands. You just end up shooting at the general direction of the enemy because you can't see them thanks to your gun's visual recoil. And that is not the case here in XDefiant, so I do appreciate the approach here that makes firing your weapons feel visually clear and places the emphasis on players' skill to determine how rapidly you actually can score kills. And well, on that note, I also generally liked the feeling of the time to kill in this game, when it works, that is. I'm going to elaborate on that part a little bit more in a few moments here, but when everything in the game was working as intended, I really liked how fast or slow even the time to kill was. It certainly feels a bit longer than the insta-kill experiences that I've come to expect from games like Battlefield 2042 and the most recent Call of Duty games. And that shift in time to kill focus does a couple of things for the experience that XDefiant offers. For one, it places a much higher emphasis on being able to track targets and aim more consistently to score a kill. It means that a player who just so happened to land a lucky shot or two isn't going to net themselves an accidental kill. Scoring a kill requires deliberate action and skill in this game to kill your opponents. It's a priority that I really appreciate seeing in these arcade shooters. For two, headshots and skilled crosshair placement for that matter are far more rewarding. Longer time to kills in games exacerbate the advantage that comes from being able to score headshots reliably, so it rewards that skill play and it rewards that skill curve that players can take advantage of. Again, great to see. And lastly, a longer time to kill welcomes a sense of counterplay to the game. In games where minuscule time to kills exist, there'll be times where you'll just be dropped before your last two brain cells that are operating can even register that you took damage in the first place. I know that happens to me all the time. So longer time to kills in theory allow for more ample opportunity for you as a player to react, find cover, and re-engage. To me, it promotes a much healthier environment for healthy back and forths to occur. Once again, in theory, assuming the game is operating as it should. And again, more on that shortly. The weaponry customization and the weapon offering itself in this game also felt pretty solid. Every weapon that I tried had a unique feel to it and played differently, so it felt good to experience the different offerings that were there. The game's attachment system also does a fantastic job at telling you exactly what each attachment is going to do to a weapon, and that lets you make some really informed decisions as to what your weapon of choice needs for improvement based on your playstyle. Like, seriously, every attachment will give you hard stats as to how it will impact a weapon in a percentage-based format. It's a fantastic level of detail. And on top of that, there's a detailed weapon statistics view right there in the game that gives you everything you need to know about a weapon of choice. It gives you your damage drop-offs, your cone of fire, your recoil stats, literally everything. And I gotta say guys, to see an arcade shooter finally opt to ditch the dumb fucking sliders that are used to indicate weapon performance in other games is such a welcome sight. Holy hell. Massive props to the developers for taking that time. It really allows players to make these informed decisions and remove the guesswork around a lot of attachments that you see in other games. So again, I welcome that change. I must also say that the fact that we are seeing 14 maps to play with here in the closed beta is also such a breath of fresh air. It's concerning to me that we are now praising games that have this many maps at launch when it really should be the norm, but anyway, here we are, and it's good to see XDefiant with this kind of offering. Each of the maps also seem to be designed with certain game modes in mind, and while there are certainly some maps that play better than others, I do appreciate the attention to detail in designing such maps with certain experiences and game modes in mind. It does go a really long way in improving the actual gameplay flow of your objective-based modes when the maps are specifically designed to offer that kind of experience and do it well. So I do have to give probs there as well. So there's certainly some good stuff happening with XDefiant here, but it is far from perfect, and there are some critical issues in this game that to me completely nullify the whole it's a COD killer hype that I'm seeing online here. Now, I will acknowledge that this is a closed beta for the game. I get that. There's of course going to be some work that needs to be done between now and launch, and there's also going to be some clunk that's just natural. But as a content creator, it's my job here to raise these issues, because if these problems don't get fixed before the game comes out, then the game will stall before it even gets off the line. And there's no denying it, the biggest problem attached to this game right now is the netcode and the server performance. And I'm not talking about server performance issues that people seem to be having when trying to log into the game. No, I'm talking about the server performance that comes from actually playing the game. I can't tell you guys on my two hands how many times I died from around a corner around 1 to 2 seconds after breaking line of sight with the person shooting at me. It was fucking infuriating, and it completely ruined my ability as a player to make informed decisions about when to fight and when to flight. It's what ended the majority of the kill streaks that I had going in this game. I've also got to be completely honest, the game's netcode also offered some of the most egregious peeker's advantage that I've ever seen in a first-person shooter. There were times where a player running a sniper rifle would kill me, only for him to emerge around the corner and then get line of sight of me after the fact. And the game's gunplay and time to kill made it very possible to challenge said sniper rifles in the hands of a skilled player. I successfully did it a few times. I challenged a sniper rifle when he was at range just because I got the good burst on my, say, ACR or M4. But there were times where the game just went, nah, he can see you, but you can't see him, so get wrecked, idiot, go back to the spawn screen. There were also times where the damage compression felt really horrendous as well. And what I mean by damage compression is the sensation of an opponent's bullets all hitting you at once. You'll be on full health one moment, only to have no health in the next frame. This, once again, made it very difficult to assess situations properly, and for a game where the TTK should allow for ample opportunity for counterplay, there were times where that just wasn't possible. The overall netcode and reliability of player interactions, unfortunately, really hampered what should have felt like a really good first-person shooter experience. I can see that the core gameplay is there to provide such a good first-person shooter experience, but sweet Jesus, was the netcode doing everything it could in its power to take any form of meaningful decision-making and kind of fun at times out of the gameplay loop. Thankfully, this is not a core gameplay problem and more of a technical problem, right? It's something that I'm hoping can be sorted out prior to the game's launch, because if it isn't, well, I've got a feeling it'll kill the game pretty bloody quickly. Unfortunately, the rest of the issues that I have with the game are actually closer to the gameplay loop itself, and I definitely think some revisiting in some areas need to be done to get the game to where it really should be, at least in my eyes. The first big one for me was the movement system of the game. Gonna be real, it just felt really clunky. It almost felt though I was trudging through quicksand half the time, if that makes sense. I do get that XDefiant seems to be taking inspirations from older first-person shooter titles and really trying to build that more grounded experience, which is fine, but by the same token, there were times where the movement just didn't feel responsive, in a way. I don't exactly know how to word it. There were times where I felt like I was battling with the sliding mechanic. Vaulting was about as consistent as trying to walk in a straight line while absolutely maggoted on a Saturday night. And it just generally felt like the game's movement system came straight out of a 2011 title. I mean, shit, it really did feel like Battlefield Bad Company 2's movement system with some marginal improvements and mechanic additions made to it while I was playing the game. I'm really not sure if that was just a me thing or if anyone else felt the same way when they played the game, but I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. It may have just been me, but yeah, something definitely felt off about it, and I felt like that had a bit of an impact on the general pacing of XDefiant for me. Something that also really sort of muddled the experience for me was the execution of the game's hero shooter focus. Now, I understand the reasoning as to why the developers have opted to go with the hero shooter design. This is a free-to-play game, and it's far easier to sell skins and cosmetics when you have identifiable characters that, you know, people like to stick with and main, if you will. Look, I get it. Cool. No issues from me at all. And the fact that Ubisoft are pulling on other franchises from their catalog of games to create the heroes is an interesting concept. I'll give them that. But on the flip side, yeah, there's some incredibly out-of-touch balancing decisions that are happening here with the heroes that need some addressing. And unfortunately, I feel like these balancing decisions are an issue that breeds from having such heroes in the game in the first place. The need to make them feel relevant and viable leads to some pretty shitty gameplay at times, unfortunately. For example, there's a healer class in the game whose E ability will heal them up immediately, while also giving them an extra 20 HP to fight with, which messes with the game's core time to kill. On top of that, their ultimate ability places this sort of AoE healing zone that not only heals people caught within its radius at an extremely fast rate, sometimes out-healing the rate of DPS that some weapons are firing at, but it also doubles your effective HP. And I also believe the effective HP of everyone in its radius as well. There's been times where I've gotten into a firefight only to be outgunned, not because they were the better player, but because they had this ability down and they were just sitting in there being caked in whatever healing juice this thing is putting out. That right there is just frustrating as hell and only complicates the game where it doesn't need to be complicated in my opinion. We've also got the cleaners from the Division universe in this game as well, and they get a passive incendiary ammo type on all of their weapons. This is also an extremely frustrating mechanic to face, and there have been times where I've beaten a player who's been playing as a cleaner using that incendiary ammo, only for their bloody incendiary ammo to kill me after the fact that I've killed them. Again, that's a mechanic that just simply needs to go. And unfortunately, I feel like the game's efforts to make a hero shooter is unfortunately leaving us privy with some strange balancing decisions on the hero shooter design that unfortunately muddies the experience a little bit. Overall, folks, I had an okay time playing XDefiant. I felt like the core gameplay mechanics were there and it was enough to sort of get me interested in coming back again and again and again, but there are certainly some pain points here, both from a technical and a design perspective, that need to be worked out as soon as possible before the game comes out. It does very much feel like a callback to first-person shooter games of a previous generation, and I do like it for that, but I don't know if it's got the leg room at the moment to, you know, go the test of time just based on that nostalgia alone. There definitely needs to be a lot more polish brought to the game from a design perspective and a technical perspective before I can really rate this as, say, the COD killer. But folks, that's all from me today. If you enjoyed today's video on XDefiant, be sure to hit that like button as it does go a long way to supporting the channel, and if you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button whilst you're at it to stay up to date with all future video content we release right here on YouTube. As always, you can find all my social media links in the description down below, and I recommend you go check all those out as well. Once again guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care guys, have a good one.